So just a few baby steps, huh? Just like our buddy Bob there, we each have to figure out how to make these baby steps. In some ways, the best way to do that is to take the ideas that you have had for today and kind of move them out of the way so you can move forth in a different way. First Peter, the second chapter, the Message puts it this way. It says, "So clean house, make a clean sweep of malice and pretense, envy and hurtful talk. You've had a taste of God. Now, like infants at the breast, drink deep of God's pure kindness. Then you'll grow up mature and whole in God." Will you pray with me? Holy God, may my thoughts, words, and actions be a blessing to you as we take some baby steps here as an organization, as individuals, and as a community of faith. Amen. Do you know, studies show that the crawling process is very important for children learning to walk. It's important to crawl before you walk, and then, of course, before you run. It's important because all of these different activities help develop us as human beings. When we crawl, it helps develop our trunk, our arms, our hands, all the muscles in our body. But not only that, it also helps us with the development of the brain as well. The brain, somehow in the midst of this crawling situation, it stimulates and it organizes the neurons in our brain. And that helps with cognitive process, comprehension, concentration, and eventually memory. Not only that, but it helps with our ability to see as well. When an infant crawls across the floor, they have to have the ability to look out ahead at what's coming, but then to look back at their hands so that they can keep on moving. All of these different steps in the process help an infant develop as a human being, help that infant to the place where he or she eventually gets up and starts moving and walking and eventually running. I think it's a really good lesson for all of us. As we continue to grow up and develop as people, we sometimes forget that new things need to be developed in a similar process. When we are trying something new, we have to take our time, figure out what it is that we have to do in order to get this task done, and then to move into it. Now, that is not real popular in today's culture, is it? We are the immediate, we want it now kind of society. We want this to be done now, and we want to get it taken care of. We don't want steps. We want it now. It's interesting that our technology has moved us in such a way that we think we can have things now. But the truth about it is technology moves just in the same way. If you're ever on the internet and you take a look at what they call the back end, it's clear there are a variety of different steps that a program or somebody has taken so that you can get the information you need. We sometimes fool ourselves because we don't see those things happening on a regular basis. We think we can just bypass all that, but the truth about life is you cannot. I thought about this as I worked in the gardens at Picard a couple of weeks ago. By the way, Mary Hill and Bev Titus are amazing people that are keeping that garden rolling, and I give God thanks for both of them and their commitment to the garden. Many of us were there the day that the garden was planted back in May. There were a big group of us there. And if we had willed those tomatoes to grow and to be ready that day, or to be ready on our time, or to be ready to feed the people of Crooked Creek right away, it wouldn't have made any difference, right? Because there has to be a process to growing things that last, that feed, and take care of people. It's been kind of fun to be there over the last couple of weeks because you can watch how things have not only grown, but what it takes to develop the growth of a particular plant. The tomatoes are just kind of like this. Some are getting just ready to be picked, and some are waiting a little bit. Now, if you take a look back in the last 6 weeks or so, that didn't just happen, did it? God did it, but also with the help of Bev and Mary and all of those who have signed up to help in the garden. These things have been cultivated, they've been weeded a variety of steps, they have been watered so that they can grow and feed others. We are not all that different as a community of faith here at the Garden. We are not at all that different. We too, as we begin as this new organization, have to plant ourselves firmly in the love of God, that we have to allow ourselves the patience to grow in the way that God is calling us to grow as a community of faith, and then we need to be the people that God has called us to be. Christy Campbell was a brand and corporate communications leader in Silicon Valley. She was it. She was hot. She had it going on. When her husband, she discovered, had been deceitful, she said, mostly financially. And in a matter of weeks, she lost her house, she lost her life the way she knew it, and she eventually lost her job. She was totally and completely alone. The mother of 5 children, now a single mother of 5 children, had to find a way to make it through life in meaningful ways. She says this. She said after a couple of years, she realized that she had to take hundreds of baby steps to walking into a new life and a new way of being. And lots of those baby steps included things that she had not even anticipated ever having to do, like, for example, moving home with her parents after caring and loving for her children as an independent mother and wife. She had to move home with 5 kids and live with her mom and dad. Not only that, but she had to take baby steps back into her career to determine where it was that she was going next. She said she was so overcome by fear at times she did not know how to go on. But she had those 5 little beings that were looking at her on a daily basis. And when she didn't have the courage, she realized that she needed to have the courage for them. She says, I laced up my boots and I realized it was time for me to be the person that God had called her to be in ways she never dreamed of being. 2 years turned into 5 years, and I'm happy to say that not only has she succeeded, but she has created a whole new way of being and career for herself. She has been able to create a life where her children are cared for. They've all grown and they've all moved on in life. And she says, in some ways, if she had not been willing to take those hundreds and hundreds of baby steps out in fear, much like Bob did, she would never have been able to be the person that God has called her to be today. Daisaku Ikeda is a Buddhist philosopher, and he puts it this way. He says, how are you measuring your success? Is it in baby steps or is it in giant leaps? I think it's an important lesson for all of us to be mindful. We can't jump into being exactly who we want to be. We have to take baby steps. We have to take those baby steps together, and we need to work as people together and as a community of faith. Personally, I love being reminded that I can't have it all today, that it's going to take one step at a time. Each transition in life requires time to find grounding, and grounding in God alone. As we continue forth as an organization, as individuals, as people who are retired and are watching their children run like crazy to try to live these lives, we have to be mindful that indeed we have to grow in God first. And there are elements to growing in God so important to who we are. Things like patience, kindness, understanding, self-control, standing up and falling down again over and over and over again, helping those who fall around us and picking them up. So we can do this, friends. We can make it through this life transition. Not only us, but I think it's time for us as a nation to consider that as well. We assume that someone is having the conversation around the violence and the challenges that are facing our nation today. It's not somebody else's job to have those conversations. It's ours. It's our job to take baby steps into those conversations that people can't have and instead are having with violence and with guns. Friends, we are being called to take baby steps to overcome our fears and to live in the love of God. Lots and lots and lots of baby steps. Will you pray with me? God of grace and love, to you we ask for help. Help us to see how important it is to crawl before we run. Help us to see the importance of each step on the journey. And remind us sometimes it takes lots and lots and lots of baby steps to become the people you have called us to be. Amen.